Breaking news. The Kansas City Chiefs just made a trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Did they get better, worse, or did they stay the same? Did they make themselves the top candidate for the Super Bowl with this trade? We discuss the AFC North and beyond next. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger. Up next on the GM, the AFC North and beyond. Let's talk. In this particular video, we're going to be talking about all things at the top, meaning at the top of each division and at the top of the playoffs, meaning we're going to highlight the 7 seeds that are in play right now. And as you heard me start off the intro, the Chiefs made a trade, breaking news, picking up DeAndre Hopkins from the Tennessee Titans, sending the Titans a 5th round pick conditional and receiving Hopkins in return. I think it's absolutely an A+ type trade, simply because Hopkins is not making a ton of money this year. I think this is his last year on his current deal. And I think he brings to the table something that the Chiefs need, is some wide receiver depth. Whether Hopkins is past his Pro Bowl prime or he is still in his prime, but just maybe not being a Pro Bowler, he's still going to bring a level of athleticism, good hands, big catch radius, and a red zone threat, which is something that Rashee Rice also brought to the table. Now, Hopkins and Rashee Rice are certainly different players. They play basically different positions. Rashee Rice was doing damage across the middle, and Hopkins typically is going to do more damage along the perimeter. But nevertheless, I think it is a big time trade for the Chiefs. I think it does bring a level of talent that they had lost due to injury, and I think it does solidify themselves, number 1 at the top of the AFC West, and number 2 at the top of the entire AFC. I think this move keeps them in that number 1 position. You see, although there are some teams that are kind of close in proximity, the Chiefs are still undefeated, even though their offense has not been optimal this season. Their defense has been absolutely elite. And so just in case you didn't know, this is an AFC North and beyond kind of conversation. And I'm talking about the Chiefs just because the biggest news right now is coming out of Kansas City. And so just for context. And so I think that with this move, if Hopkins is healthy and they don't suffer any other major injuries, I think the Chiefs continue throughout this season, probably only losing 2, maybe 3 games, right? And I'm not saying Hopkins makes them elite as a team. I think they are elite as a team because of the head coach and the quarterback, who are in lockstep. You see, the reason why the Chiefs are the favorite, no matter what their offense has looked like, is because offensively, Andy Reid is the system, right? He just happens to have the best quarterback in the league pulling the trigger on offense. Now, when I say the best quarterback in the league, I'm taking into consideration the collection of accolades that Patrick Mahomes has. Of course, Lamar Jackson, like I've stated, is playing the best quarterback right now, but Patrick Mahomes, history will tell us, is still the best. And so, and the reason why I call Andy Reid the system, which is why they have to be the number 1 seed and they are the favorites, is because it really doesn't matter who you plug into this system. They seem to be productive, right? When and you've heard me say this before, when Clyde Edwards-Helaire, when he got hurt, they ran into Jerick McKinnon. He was super productive. When they moved on from McKinnon, they brought in Pacheco, right? Pacheco hit the ground running and was a big time addition to their offense, as if he had always been there. Okay. Pacheco gets hurt. You know what they do? They recycle Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt comes in and plays very well, just like he hasn't missed a beat. And what that indicates is that the system is the system, meaning how Andy Reid put this offense together, how plays are called, how positions are supposed to be ran. If you are familiar with the offense, or if you come in, keep your head down and learn what they're doing, you're going to be successful and what Kansas City has going on offensively. Same thing with Mecole Hardman. He played for the Jets early last year. They brought him back, plugged him right back in, and he made some timely plays. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have a big-time chemistry, and also Travis Kelce hasn't really got on track. You don't need Travis Kelce at this point to get on track in the regular season. His regular season status is already set. His Hall of Fame credentials are already established. He's going to go down as the best tight end ever to do it. And so all you need Travis Kelce to be is healthy and ready to go in the playoffs. And if they earn that number 1 seed, that gives everybody that extra week of rest. Right. And so, and then Xavier Worthy, just because he's going to be playing in every single game, barring any kind of injury, anything like that, he's going to get better. Right. And so the Chiefs are going to be there. And then what also has solidified them as a number 1 seed and as the favorite to win the Super Bowl right now, even though a lot of people are talking highly about the Ravens, is their defense. Whether they're ranked number 1, they are the number 1 defense in the league. And for 3 reasons. I'm going to give you 3 players who are, just doing their thing. Chris Jones is probably the best defensive player in the entire league, with a close TJ Watt out in Pittsburgh, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Chris Jones is that guy. You can line him up anywhere across that defensive line. He can rush the passer, he can crush the pocket, and he can just change the game, right? And because Chris Jones plays along that defensive line, it has made George Karlaftis, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, it has made him a better edge rusher. See, because you have to account for Chris Jones. You have to double and triple team him sometimes, which allows George K, I just call him that, it allows him to get off the ball and do damage in the backfield. And so he's ramped up his game. And then when you look at Trent McDuffie, he is probably 1 or 2 of the best corners in the entire league. And you see him around the ball. You see him knocking the ball out. You see him knocking the ball away. He's just consistent with what he does, great in coverage. And when you have those 3 guys at their optimal best, they're going to be hard to beat defensively. And so all you need is this defense to do exactly what they did last year, and this offense to be, 24 to 26 points, which I think they could do. They're going to be a tough out, right? And so I think that, so you have to talk about the Chiefs as the number 1 seed. And I think this DeAndre Hopkins news is more of a big deal than some people will make it. All right, let's move to the rest of the AFC West really quickly. The Chiefs are going to have this West locked up probably by week 10 or 11, because the closest competition right now is Denver. And with a rookie quarterback, I'm not sure how far they'll go. They play good defense, and they're coming along offensively. But will they push the sale button in about a week and sell off some parts, or will they try to make a move and push for the playoffs? We don't really know. I think it's too early for the Chargers, and then the Raiders are the Raiders right now. And I think the Chiefs are in a New England Patriots type situation, as you heard me say before. The Patriots for a long time just dominated their division because the division was so weak. They dominated the AFC East, and that's what you're seeing from the Chiefs in the West. Everybody else is just trying to figure out what they're doing at quarterback. They're trying to figure out what they're doing at head coach. So it kind of becomes a revolving door for those other 3 teams in the West. And the Chiefs, they have their head coach and they have their quarterback. That thing is figured out, and they're going to continue to exert dominance over the West for a long time. Let's jump to the AFC North now. At the top of the AFC North, you have the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that right now, the Ravens may have a little bit of edge just because the offense is operating at such a high level. But the defense has some major concerns. 7 games in, every quarterback that comes to town, with the exception of Buffalo, or every quarterback that we face off against, they seem to be playing at a Pro Bowl level, whether they're a Pro Bowler or not. And we don't know what to do in Baltimore at this point, because 7 games in, it seems like you would know what to tighten up, what to fix, who to replace, who to scheme up as far as, moving them around the board, and it just hasn't happened. That secondary is just as trash as it was when the season started. And so I'm expecting the Baltimore Ravens to make a big trade. I'll come back to that in a minute. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are probably the most balanced team in the AFC North. Their offense is not elite, but they've been consistent, whether it was Justin Fields or the newly inserted Russell Wilson. And I remember telling you guys in the offseason, and a lot of people gave me some flack. Well, Russell Wilson, he ain't no good, he ain't this, he ain't that. But what Russell Wilson does well, and he's always done well, no matter where he's been, whether it was in Seattle, his original team, whether it was Denver or his new team, Pittsburgh, he's always thrown the deep ball well. And that's what you saw last week when he hit George Pickens a couple of times deep. And I think that if the offensive line continues to give him opportunities to throw the ball, he'll continue to go deep. And if they can go deep, 4 or 5 times a game and have a consistent run game, which they absolutely have, I think that they're going to be in more games and winning more games than they are out of, or that they lose, because this defense is playing big time, led by TJ Watt, a potential defensive player of the year once again. And so I think that they're going to be in it to the very end, and they're not going to beat themselves. As they go down the stretch, you're going to have to beat Pittsburgh, and that's going to be no matter who plays them. I thought sure that the Jets would stand up and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, because the Jets, defense is supposed to be top notch, but they ran through the Jets pretty easy after Russell Wilson got comfortable. And so I think that that showed me a lot about Pittsburgh, and I think that they're going to be trouble for a lot of teams, including us, the Baltimore Ravens. When we look at the third team in the AFC North, the Cincinnati Bengals, they're coming on. They've been up and down offensively. They have some explosions offensively, and then they have some lows offensively, such as last week. But playing against the Cleveland Browns, it's a team that knows them and they know Cleveland, and so you could expect a low-scoring effort, even though Cleveland lost Deshaun Watson and, of course, traded away Amari Cooper. They still played good defense against the Cincinnati Bengals, and so I don't know. I don't really know what to expect from the Bengals. I don't know if they'll make a move at the trade deadline. I don't know if they'll stand still at the trade deadline. But they need something, and I don't know exactly what they need. I know they did lose Geno Stone to an injury last week, so they have some question marks at safety, and just like we do. And so we'll see. When we jump down to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns lost Deshaun Watson, as I've just stated, and of course they traded away Amari Cooper, so it looks like they're hitting reset offense, or they're going to have to hit reset offensively. I think they're going to be preparing to move on from Deshaun Watson. He'll probably be on the shelf for at least one calendar year because he's had so many lower body injuries, and if I remember correctly, this is also a lower body injury. Somebody correct me if I'm incorrect. But not having a lot of talent at the wide receiver room, and bringing back Nick Chubb last week says they're trying to keep some hope around Cleveland. But I think you're going to see Cleveland be sellers, right? At some point it's just time to kind of bust up what you've been trying to do, and I think it's time for that now. I think Cleveland, of course, made the wrong choice at quarterback. I think they overpaid in desperation, and now they're regretting that. But they're in a prime opportunity right now to just hit reset. I've seen some Myles Garrett, trade rumors. I've seen some Zadarius Smith trade rumors, and so they may be literally just going to go for a draft pick grab right now and flip some of their good players and just tear it all the way down. They're in position to get one of the young quarterbacks in this draft, and they're kind of in position to just kind of rebuild pretty quick with some young talent. And so I think that's the way Cleveland's going to do. So don't be surprised if Cleveland totally hits the reset button. But back to the Ravens. Just really quick, I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to make a trade, but I think they need to make 2 trades. And I have a trade episode coming up probably on Friday concerning the Baltimore Ravens, if these players are still, if the players I'm going to talk about are still on the board. But I've seen some Budda Baker trade rumors and things like that. Personally, I think Budda Baker will be a nice addition to the Baltimore Ravens secondary, but the truth of the matter is that would have like $129 million between Marcus Williams and Budda Baker's contracts, and that would spell the end for Marcus Williams, which I think it should spell the end anyway, whether they make a trade or not. He's just not the long-term answer. In fact, I had some problems when they first picked him up, but that's not here nor there. It is what it is. And so I've definitely seen those trades. I haven't really seen any trades offensively or anything like that, but I think we need to also make an offensive move. And the reason why I think we need to make an offensive move is for the very thing we saw in Monday night's game. When Zay went down, hurt his ankle, yes, Bateman did step up. Nelson Aguilar did make a pretty good catch, big time catch. And beyond those two, behind Zay, you don't have much, right? We haven't seen the 4th round draft pick Devontae Walker this year at all. We haven't heard much from Tylan Wallace, and we definitely don't hear anything from Deontay Hardy because he's now on IR. And so the truth is we need a depth piece at the wide receiver position, and I have some candidates that I'm going to talk about again in that Friday episode. So stay tuned for that. So that's my thoughts, about the AFC North. When we jump to the East, there's only one team to really talk about, and that's the Buffalo Bills, who picked up Amari Cooper. And I think that as he spends more time with Josh Allen, getting accustomed to what they're going to be doing offensively in Buffalo, I think he'll become more and more integrated. He did score his first touchdown this past Sunday. I think that the Buffalo Bills are developing a 2-back system. You've seen the backup to James Cook get a little more run, get a little more yards. So I think that's going to be good for the Buffalo Bills offense. And this defense is just going to continue to play steady. They're not going to be elite at anything in particular, but they're just going to be solid. And I think that what the Buffalo Bills can do offensively will kind of offset what they do defensively, because in the AFC East, there's not much competition. Tua's coming back, I think, this week, possibly. But I think the Miami Dolphins are so far behind. They're all 3 games or more behind. And I don't think Miami can catch Buffalo. I definitely don't think the Jets are going to catch Buffalo. And New England has no real shot. And so it's Buffalo and nobody else. When we jump to the AFC South, this last division, you have the Houston Texans, led by C.J. Stroud in the number 1 position. And I think that's the only team that's going to really make any noise. Although the Indianapolis Colts are 4-3 and they're in a top 7 playoff position, I think they end up fading into the background. And I think Houston has this division locked up probably about week 10 or 11, barring any kind of crazy injury or just fluky losses. I think it's Houston and nobody else. They're playing okay, both offensively and defensively. And I think they'll definitely be a tough out in the playoffs. And so when we look at the AFC as a whole, right now, when you look at seeding, the Kansas City Chiefs are in the number 1 position. The Houston Texans are in the number 2. Baltimore is in the number 3 position. And then it's Buffalo in that number 3 position. All those teams are 5-2 or better. And then when you get to 5, 6, and 7, I think it's the Steelers, followed by Indianapolis. And then I think I want to say it's Denver in that 7th spot. I'm not 100% sure. So those are the top 7 seeds right now. And I think that the top 5 seeds will absolutely be there in the end. I don't know about 6 and 7. And so I look for Houston Chiefs to absolutely win their divisions with some ease. I think it'll be a fight to the end, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and then I think Buffalo wins their division. So I think we have the toughest fight, and I think we also have the toughest competition down the stretch as well. You know, it's just been a litany of top teams we've been playing all year long, and I think that we're going to have to figure out what we're doing defensively to change some things up and continue to ascend offensively. So, man, that's my take, man. Again, the breaking news was the Chiefs picked up DeAndre Hopkins. I think it's a big-time move, and I look for some big news from the Baltimore Ravens over the next 10 to 12 days. I'm your guy, Boulanger. This is the GM, and I'm out.